member of the EuroSIF board and promoter of the ethical finance movement, sustainable finance and international cooperation. And today he will be giving a speech called Sustainable Finance Strategies to Promote the Agri-Food Industry. So Professor Bicciato, thank you for joining us today.
Good morning everybody.
Good morning.
I try to share a few words before to share my video and show you the slides that I prepare for today. So thank you very much to the Venice Japan International Food Symposium organization and Ca' Foscari University for this invitation. Of course, my speech will deal another aspect, maybe not so we can say linked to the Japanese and Italian cooperation culture, but I think that's something important because it is based on the concept of sustainability applied also to the world of finance, and try to understand which are the opportunities that we can set up in a cooperation even in this sector. So I try to share my video. So one moment. Okay. So let me know if you can see now. Is it okay?
Yes, it is okay.
Okay, great. So I can go ahead with the presentation. So first of all, I'm the Secretary General of Forum for Sustainable Finance. Let me check if I can move my. Okay. Who we are a non-profit organization founded 20 years ago. So we have, I mean, that we try to talk about sustainable finance and ethical finance where nobody talk about that. And so it's quite, we can say innovative sector with a big trend, big growth in the last year. We have a multi-stakeholders membership base, financial actors and other organizations interested in environmental and social impacts of financial activity. The mission is to promote awareness and strategies linked to sustainable investment with the aim to encourage the integration of environmental, social, and governance criteria. Now I will explain to you what we are talking about regarding this. And the vision is a vision that is linked to the concept of sustainable and responsible investment that can affect the economic development by making it more consistent with the principle of sustainability. I think that the issue of sustainability, especially known by the development by the SDGs, I mean the Sustainable Development Goals launched by United Nations 1 year ago in the framework of Agenda 2030, is quite interesting even for the cultural sector and even for the other sustainable sector that we are dealing with. Today, for example, I will mention the relationship with the sustainable agriculture. So I think that this is quite important, and for us, it is a sort of new paradigm to consider finance. So how we can use in a different way the traditional finance in order to support culture, in order to support sustainable sector in general. So we can say environment, social aspect, cultural aspect, and so on. This is a big change, a big transformation. And now I try to show you which are the growth, which are in the tremendous growth of this sector, and especially in agriculture for the theme of today. So we are part, as you mentioned at the beginning, of a network, EuroSIF network. I am in the board of this network. These are the sustainable forum that are present in the different countries in Europe. So for us, it's quite important to have a relationship with the other forum at the worldwide level, like, for example, Japan Forum. There is a very active Japan Forum on sustainable finance. And maybe it could be interesting in the framework of this kind of collaboration, try to maintain relationship also with them and try to create a software network where we and in Japan the sustainable finance is quite active, and so we are happy to have a relationship also with them. This is the composition of our membership. So as you can trade, yeah, as you can see, trade and representative association, bank and insurance companies, banking foundation, pension funds, trade unions, asset manager, but also a strong component of civil society. We have NGO inside, we have a third sector organization. We have also a network of 20 universities that collaborate with us. So this is the issue is that, of course, the focus of our activities is the sustainable finance, and so of course the sustainable finance community, so banks, companies, pension funds, etc. But it's quite important also the relationship with the civil society and the other organization of the civil society, included, of course, universities. Just a few words in order to explain what we are doing, because I imagine that nobody will be expert of finance and sustainable finance. So in very simple word, why it is a new paradigm, it is an innovative paradigm. Because sustainable finance, in few words, integrates the concept of social, cultural, governance, environmental aspect in the analysis of the investments. What does it mean? It is not something complementary. I mean, that there is economy and finance, and then there are the other sector. But these sectors, especially social and environmental sector, are exactly at the same level of importance of economic and financial issues. It's a sort of, you can imagine we are based on a threefold concept of sustainability. You can imagine a chair with three legs, and one is economic and financial, one is social and culture, another one is environmental. If you cut one of these legs, the chair fall down. So this is the issue. All these aspects, included culture, is integral part of the we can say strategy of investment in sustainable finance. So this is the most important concept that I would like to underline, because it is a new way of thinking. I mean that, but with a big growth. These are the criteria that we use: environmental, social, and governance. These are part of the, we can say, objective and strategy of the new investment and the new investors. These are the strategy. I will go very fast because I don't want to stay too much, but just to say to you that the strategy, the main strategy are the exclusion. So what does it mean? What I don't want to invest to, I mean, that which are the sector that I exclude by investment. And so activities against environment, violation of human rights, etc., etc. Okay, of course, here the list is very long, but it's just to give you an idea. The norms-based screening is quite important. And what does it mean? It means that the investors and the companies have to be aligned to some principle, like, for example, the Human Rights Declaration, like, for example, the SDGs, quindi Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, and so on. And then we have thematic investment. Thematic investment is quite interesting, even for the cultural sector, and of course for the agricultural sector, because all my investments must be oriented to support this sector under some condition, not only condition regarding the economic issues, but also cultural, social, and environmental condition. Going ahead, why it is important for the investment, so also for my investors friend in Japan, I think this is exactly the same approach, because the first one is the risks. If I included these non-financial criteria, we can say, so environmental, social criteria, and cultural criteria, inside of my strategy of investment, the risks are less than if I don't include this. Because with this analysis, as I can anticipate some the economists say, negative externalities that I can have that caused by an environmental crisis or a social crisis. And for this reason that these aspects are absolutely important to be considered. I will go a little ahead regarding other information. What is important is that ESG criteria, so environmental, social, good governance, and I add also cultural criteria or sustainable sector criteria, are more have best performance and performance higher than the non-ESG investment. I don't know if it's clear, this aspect. If you can see this simple graphic and you see the blue line is always at the same level or higher than the yellow line. The blue line is the funds based on ESG criteria. So it is quite important because it is sort of a revolution. I mean that sustainable sector, but also culture, it is an investment. It's not a cost. This is something that absolutely we have to highlight. Even this kind of cooperation that you are setting up with Japan, etc., etc. If it is based on this concept, means another model of development. It is rethinking the model of development. So this is we can say the message that for me is quite important. Just to give an idea about the numbers, we are not talking about a niche sector, but a mainstream sector. As you can see, we have 31,000 billions of investment that are at the moment oriented with these ESG criteria. If you can say Japan, for example, has now, these are figures for 2018, now that there was an increase and we are around 3,000 billions of investment with these criteria. Europe is a sort of champion from this point of view because half of these assets are managed by European Union. We are very happy about that. And these are, okay, the strategies that normally are more used in strategic development investment. But now I don't want to say too much about that. I want to say something regarding the pandemic, the COVID-19. How was the reaction in front of pandemic situation? This is incredible what's happened. The same MSCI's Morgan Stanley analysis data that say that the performance of ESG during the pandemic are better than the other one. I mean that if I consider the environmental and social issues, especially in a crisis period, we have a return of investment which is higher than the other one. So we can have the data. I don't want to be too much boring about that. So, but just to launch some messages that maybe could be interesting for everybody, that in the first months of 2020, we have underperformance for all the investment, if you can imagine. No? So I mean, during the pandemic situation, the first phase, but the underperformance of the ESG investment are less than the other one. When we have, we can say, a relaunch of economy during last summer, the positive performance of ESG criteria are higher than the other one. So what does it mean? It means that finance cannot act in an efficient way without consider this kind of aspect, which are absolutely crucial for oriented the capital in another way. If we, I don't, I'm not what I don't, I'm not an expert of Japanese culture like you, but I can say something. I mean that this kind of ethical and sustainable finance is not a new idea. At the beginning of last century, was exactly in Japan that born, for example, the concept of ethical capitalism. This is something interesting. Sorry for my pronunciation, but it is Gappon Uji is the name. So absolutely, my pronunciation is a disaster. And Shibusawa Eiki is someone that the first pioneer of sustainable finance, we can say, in Japan. So for this reason, for me, it's very important to consider this approach as a global approach, not an Italian, a European, or Japan approach. So I think that is something that could be interesting for everybody. Just to give a look to how much the fund flows in September 2019, we had 192 funds investing in sustainable finance sector. In September 2020, we have 362. So the answer to the pandemic, COVID-19, was absolutely, we can say, guaranteed by this. Of course, there are some sectors which are interesting. Among these sectors is sustainable agriculture. You asked me to make a mention, especially to this sector, which is one of the most important and strategic sector for European Union. European Union now launched the new program and the new taxonomy of sustainable sectors to be invested, and sustainable agriculture is one of them. Why it is important, agriculture and sustainability, and why our country is very well positioned from this point of view. So I think that we can do something really interesting, even in a framework of cooperation, international cooperation. For example, we have just 77% of greenhouse gas emission from agriculture. We are at the third place for agri-food production value, and we have also some other interesting things. For example, we are the first one in Italy for organic food and organic agriculture. At the moment, we have 179,000 companies, leader in Europe in this sector. Nobody knows, or not everybody knows this. And with the plus 178 consumption from 2018 and 2019. This is for effect also of another European important framework, which is the agreement regarding the new Green Deal that European Union launched in 2019. Another important thing is that we are the first country in Europe that reduce more the use of pesticides, antibiotics, and chemical fertilizers, so minus 26%. And we are the first place at European level for food security. So this is why I mention this data, because in many cases, we are not able to underline, to highlight which are the excellencies of our economy. In this case, for example, if you talk about food, is I mean that's quite easy. We can say okay, Italy is well known for the quality of food and so on, like Japan, we can say, but. What we don't know is that we have an agriculture sector ready to face in a sustainable way. I mean that a good cooperation with the other countries and included also Japan. This is important because now at the European level we have a regulation that permits to avoid the phenomenon of agri-washing or green-washing or social washing. I mean, someone that say, I am sustainable, but it's not true. This is the issue. So it's quite important to have a law, and the law is the EU Taxonomy that will be operational from the beginning of next century. And especially for the two issues, mitigation and adaptation, which are the main important objective of the climate change issues, agriculture and forestry can give an important contribution. What we can say that agriculture differs from other sectors when considered climate change mitigation, as it can act as both a source and a sink for greenhouses emission. What does it mean? That the role of agriculture is crucial, and is crucial at global level. We cannot consider, we cannot have, for example, an efficient strategy to fight the climate change just at the local level. This is something that regarding all over the world. So in this kind of cooperation, I think that we have to consider this principle of sustainable development, which are quite important. So just to go towards the conclusion of my speech, I don't want to take too much time, but just to say to you that we already have some instruments that can support sustainable agriculture, especially the green bond. The green bond are this kind of, I don't want to go too much in the financial technicalities, but it is an instrument that we can use from now. Even Japan is using a lot this kind of sustainable financial instrument. The global market is 1,000 billions, you can imagine, of dollars. In Europe, the issuance is half thousand billion of dollars. So I mean that a lot of money that are at disposal of a new model to make agriculture, and considering also social and the other important principle. The same for social bond. Here you can have something, for example, I say something for cultural activities. Take into account that the new recovery fund and after pandemic, and we can say the European Commission resources are available even to relaunch sustainability also in the cultural sector. And so I think that could be quite interesting for you to understand which are the opportunities that you have now. Last one is impact investing, is a form of investing that permit to understand exactly where my money is going to, and so permit to have a real impact of social and environmental impact with some returns. If you can, I show this slide only to underline that after energy and financial services, forestry and food and agriculture are the most important sector in the sustainable opportunity for the future. So the conclusion is that, okay, thank you very much for everybody. I think that with this kind of international cooperation is quite important. It is a mistake to think that finance has not a responsibility regarding the pattern of development that I want to develop. I mean that there is a sort of multi-stakeholder responsibility that we have facing climate change issue, faces social and health pandemic crisis that we have, and also to improve culture, which is a tremendous tool in order to explain to people that now we have to face another form of sustainable development. It is recognized, someone was just a matter of a few movements, but now it is a global movement after Greta, after what Pope Francis said. We can say we are a lot after also the culture of cinema is doing, and so I mean that now is the right moment in order to set up, for example, new form of cooperation. So in my view, the international cooperation also with Japan, which is quite focused on this kind of principle, could be very, very interesting. And so respecting the difference of cultural approach, but we can say under a common framework based on the sustainable development principles. I think that is quite important. It's a new form of international cooperation, and I'm very confident about the opportunities that we have from here to next year. So thank you very much, and bye.
Thank you very much, Professor Bicciato, for your time and for your remarkable analysis of the agri-food industry, and also about the reaction about the pandemic situation. Thank you very much for that. I would like to invite again the audience for comments or questions.
Me again. Professor Bicciato, I hope my question is not too trivial, because as you know, I'm not an expert of finance at all. But you suggested to further deepen the relationship between the Italian and the Japanese forum, also from a cultural point of view, an approach, a cultural approach. So could you suggest something new in this sense, something that has never been touched somehow, and that may link our two countries in this?
But listen, one of the most important problem that we have right now in terms of, we can say, how disseminate the approach to sustainable development is the communication. And in many times, if you have a sort of corporate communication, I mean, so I tell you which product I'm selling in the market or something like that, which is quite, is not that kind of communication that allow to change the mentality, we can say. For this reason, for me, we have, even with your help, we can approach to another form of communication in order to arrive to the Italian and Japanese citizens, okay, with a message which is, we can say, a revolutionary message. I mean that the economic and financial development could be different. The cultural approach could be different. The agriculture could be different. So the problem is this one, and this kind of different approach is not an approach that means less, but means more, because we, with our analysis, even mathematical analysis, we can demonstrate that sustainable finance is more profitable than the non-sustainable finance. And this is something that is very hard for us. I mean, that is 20 years and I try to launch this kind of messages, but it's not enough. I mean, that we need the technical and cultural instruments that permit to send and launch this kind of messages. For this reason that we need you, because of course, each one has a sort of specialization. And for me, this is the main problem at the moment, we can say.
Thank you very much. Here we are.
Okay, you are welcome, and I hope that we can collaborate in the future. So I say goodbye to everybody and good luck for everything.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Bicciato, for your time. Thank you.